Well, here I am, Thursday the 9th of March in beautiful sunny Cyprus on the day of the last 16 tie between AEK Larnaca and West Ham United. Kickoff is at 7:45 local time, which is 5:45 UK time. And we've got some details, haven't we? Some team news and updates, etc. We're going into this game looking for a ninth straight win in this competition. The only team so far that remains with a 100% record. We've got three players back who were missing in the game against Brighton at the weekend. Antonio, Kera and Maxwell Cornet are all in the squad. Although Moyes admitted that it's highly unlikely that Cornet is going to take any part in the game, he's still taking him out there with the rest of the squad. Angelo Ogbonna, who was taken off near the end of the game against Brighton, is also in the squad and available to play as well. Players missing is Vladimir Coufal and Fabianski. There's 21 players in the squad. Joseph Anang, as the backup keeper, now our third choice keeper, has flown with the squad as well. After the Brighton game, Moyes was asked if the squad was fragile, if the team was fragile after that defeat. He didn't really directly answer that question, but he reflected on how much the Man United FA Cup game took it out of the team. Now, okay, that's all very well. It was a hard-fought tie. We did really, really well. Really unlucky with the result, but I guess that's what a squad's for. That's why David Moyes has improved the squad in order to sort of overcome things like that, in order to try and get other players in who can keep the team fresh. So, yes, okay, it was a hard-fought game, but then why not play, the likes of Fornals and Lanzini and Downs and a few other players from the start in order to keep it fresh. He was also asked about youth, and he admitted, David Moyes, that it's unlikely that the youth players are going to get much of a look in at this stage of the season. He said, when you get through to a knockout stage in a competition, it becomes more difficult to utilise some of the younger players, and also with our predicament in the league, it's going to be equally as difficult. So do I agree with that? Yeah, I do to an extent, because I know David Moyes gets an awful lot of stick for not using youth in the squad, but we do have a squad. He did say that we've now got a squad that's sufficient enough to be able to cope with not only European football, and he said, when he was buying players in the summer, it was with Europe in mind, and we know we fell a little bit short last season when we just didn't have that enough quality, enough strength in depth to compete right up to the end to get to the final last season. So he bought a squad with Europe in mind, and also, hopefully, he said, to also compete in the Premier League too. Well, we know we haven't been competing that well in the Premier League, but in terms of when it comes to Europe, we should have enough in depth in order to get us to the final, I think. But that's nothing to take away from AEK Larnaca. They're not going to be an easy team to play against. On the squad, Moyes went on about Cornet and said despite travelling, he feels the player will probably be more ready after the international break. So we might start seeing a bit more of him, maybe coming from the bench, probably from the Southampton game onwards. And then he talked about Vladimir Coufal, and he said the player that has got a plantar fasciitis on his heel. Now, normally you'd expect to have a bit of rest from that, but it's possible, depending on the severity of the injury, he could be out for quite a few months. People with this kind of symptom on their heel could be out for anything like up to 6 months. But like I said, it really does depend on the severity of it, and I guess we'll find out in due time how bad it is. A lot of rest certainly helps, so we're hoping that he won't be out for too much longer, but it's quite possible he might even miss some of the games after the international break. In discussion with Moyes on today's game, he talked about AEK and he talked about their experience. They're one of the few teams in the Europa Conference League that actually went through all the European competitions. They started off in the Champions League, went down to the Europa League, and then down into the playoffs in the Europa Conference League. So he talked about their experience. He talked about how they're not to be undermined, that they do have a lot of experience in European football, and they're not to be taken lightly. Moyes also alluded to the possibility of some squad rotation, and I guess this is what we've been kind of expecting, and maybe expecting that to have happened a little bit more often. So that may mean there's an opportunity for players like Flynn Downs, Fornals, maybe even Lanzini to actually feature in this game, who haven't been getting an awful lot of look in the Premier League this season. My predicted lineup is going to be Areola, Kehrer at right back, again on Ogbonna, because I think Zuma will be kept for the game against Aston Villa at the weekend. Creswell's likely to come back in as a left back, and then we'll have Downs, Rice and Lanzini as a midfield three, and then I'm actually going for Scamacca and Antonio up front. So I'm actually, to be honest, I'm actually predicting a 4-1-3-2 formation. So Kehrer, Agerd, Ogbonna and Creswell, with Rice sitting, Downs, Lanzini and Antonio as the three, and then up front Scamacca. Let's see if Moyes actually finally gets to play two strikers, and that might be a little bit of an interesting thing for him as well, to see how two strikers might fare. We know David Moyes doesn't often do that, does he? Getting two strikers on the pitch, and this is a golden opportunity to give him that chance to see how two strikers might play alongside each other. I think Ings is available, but I think Ings will also be kept for the game against Aston Villa. It's a crucial game at the weekend. This one's important, but it's also a very crucial game to get through that on Sunday. What about AEK? They currently lie second in the Cypriot League. They're a good defensive side and will keep the game tight, offering a misfiring West Ham United very few opportunities to get any goals. However, if we can get an early goal, it could make the game a bit more open, and who knows what might happen from there. Larnaca are missing two key players because of suspension: defender Angel Garcia and midfielder Pere Pons. They go into the game having beaten the West Ham of Cyprus, a team called Paralimni. Now, on the West Ham official website, it gives you a bit of a history about Paralimni and how they sort of forged a relationship over the years, and they wear the claret and blue after the kit was donated to them by Bobby Moore back in 1971. Their last game, they beat Paralimni 3-1, and their goal scorer was a hat-trick hero, Ivan Trukovsky, who's also the captain of the team. And he's quite a tricky player alongside Ortman, who's their, I think they're now on the same number of goals for the season. So they've got some experience, and they've got some dangerous players that we have to make sure we keep at bay. My score prediction for tonight, I think it's going to be 2-0 to West Ham, but I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I think it's going to be a difficult 2-0. But I think we'll have enough in our locker to sort of take a win away back to our home ground next week. No team reaches the last 16 of this competition, or any European competition, if they're average or rubbish, and that's why we need to treat AEK Larnaca with a bit of respect. But nonetheless, 2-0 should suffice, and let's see what happens. There'll be more videos coming up later, hopefully one at the stadium, either before, during or after the game. If you're new to the channel, do hit the subscribe and like and bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Thank you for watching, and come on West Ham.
Well, good morning from a sunny Cyprus. And you wonder why we travel away with West Ham? Maybe something to do with that little blue sky. But here we are. This is the main seafront in Larnaca. I nearly forgot where I was then. I've been getting in at 4 o'clock yesterday morning. So good atmosphere down here. There's the meeting pub up the road, where a load of West Ham are in there with all the flags. That's a good place to meet, boys, if you want to come down there. A bar over the road there where we're sat called the Hobo. Probably very apt with me and everything like that. Just next to Cafe Nero, there's McDonald's, there's loads of food places. So it's, like I've described before, it's like Newquay or Blackpool on steroids. So like I said last night, David Moyes, you need to give us a performance, so do the team. I'm predicting a 3-0 win, and I could do with a 3-0 by half time, so that it's all over and done and dusted. Now, like a mug, I've already booked my flights for Prague. So you can all blame me when it all goes wrong. Accommodation's on a refund, but the flights were only 80 quid all in. So yeah, go from Stansted into Prague, then down to Milan, and then back into Stansted. So things you do. 4 days, 5 days in Prague, that'll be very nice. Anyway, I've recovered from my trips from yesterday. Like I say, if you're over here, get yourself down to the seafront and everything. A load of lads are over in Ayia Napa. I know Stell's up in Nicosia and stuff. So yeah, very friendly people, cheap beer. We're on it. Next videos to follow will be up at the game. Come on, you Irons.